Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What dark secret are you hiding from everyone? When my grandpa was on his deathbed, he admitted to killing fellow Marines in the Vietnam War for torturing and raping young girls. Most of our family doesn't know. Edit. Wow, didn't expect this to blow up lol, thank you for all the awards. My grandpa was a pretty cool guy. Very calm and mellow, so my mom and I were shocked when he admitted this to us. He was a gunsmith his whole life and was very proud of being a Marine. But the guilt he carried from the war made him believe he was being punished in the end. He died a really painful and traumatic death that I would never wish on anybody. I hope it lets him rest easier in peace that the majority of you commend what he did. I certainly never held any qualms about it. My great-grandpa told us the same thing. He said he walked in on his Marine friends raping women and children and blew all their heads off. His words. He never let my parents leave us with anyone but my great-grandma and him BC he was so afraid of. What piece of shit perverts were lurking out there. Edit. I also want to thank you for blowing my comment up. It is crazy to think there are multiple people out there in the service with this sick behavior. My great-grandfather was also an amazing man and he became a pastor after he completed his time in the Marines. He also wanted forgiveness for killing those men for what they did and he ended up passing from bone cancer, but nonetheless he was an amazing person with a giant heart. Massive kudos to both grandpas mentioned. RIP Hero's crown. Don't ask me how I know this, but there are still Marines who handle that kind of business. True or false? I'd like to think so. There should be a medal for that. Your grandpa was a fucking real one. Props to him for standing up for those that could not stand up for themselves. Most people in my family think that my mother recently died suddenly from complications due to cancer, but she really died from the toxic effects of oxycodone, morphine, fentanyl and methamphetamine. Seems as though she just had herself a secret death party. Not including the meth, but this is more common than you think with chronic cancer patients. My mother was on all of that her last weeks. She had a morphine pump straight into her veins to alleviate the pain. I wasn't really prepared for an inbox of immense suffering. Nice to know one's not alone, I guess. Sounds like the concoction my mom drank on her last day in September. But it was sanctioned by the state. Colorado made. It was a beautiful day with all of us there. She was eager to be done with her body. I'm sorry for your loss. She was eager to be done with her body. Wow, I think I'm going to remember this forever. Powerful. Can't say I'd blame her. If I'm terminally ill, I'm smoking some fucking crack. I wanna see what all the fuss is about before I go. When my girl was in labor, they gave her something like 50 micrograms of fentanyl to deal with the pain. She went from screaming bloody murder to paradise in seconds. I wanna try that before I die. Not yet though. After my parents got divorced, my stepdad basically moved right in and started sexually abusing me. I knew it was wrong deep down somewhere, but figured since he was an adult, he knew what he was doing and to trust him. One night my sister caught him red-handed and flipped out and told my mom. Cops came and he got arrested. I was only like 9 to 10 years old, so a lot of it is a blur. At first my mom had me sleeping in bed with her at night and was babying me and I loved it. One day, months later, we were walking home from school and we saw me dad's van sitting outside of our house. We weren't allowed in and we saw garbage bags sitting outside. My dad told us that my mom had called him earlier in the week and told him that if he didn't come and get us, she'd get rid of us. She wouldn't come out and talk to us and I cried. My dad lived in another state, so this meant we'd have to leave our friends and our hometown. Our friends ran after the van as we drove away. For a few years she wouldn't talk to us BC she had allowed my stepdad to come back and that's why she stayed away. Guess she didn't want to face us after what she'd done. She'd chosen a man who'd abused her child over her own children. Eventually we had a relationship with her again, but she was so sick. The funny thing is that she's in a really high up position for one of the largest banks in America. Professionally people think she's amazing. She's a monster. I finally had the courage to cut her out when I went into recovery from heroin addiction 11 years ago and haven't spoken to her since. A few people know this story, but not many, and it felt good to get it out to the world. My life has flourished since cutting her off. People always say how I need my mom. Lol. Don't be scared to boot family out of your life, just be their family. Thanks for allowing me to share this. Reddit. Edit. First and foremost, thank you all so much for all of the love and support. The awards and messages. I figured this would get buried in the post and then I heard my phone going mad. Lol. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Some clarifications. The trash bags were the clothes my mother had gotten together for us. My brother and I each had one bag full of clothes and none of our other belongings. My father was poor. We barely had running water and lived in a little log cabin in rural NEPA, US. He struggled with alcoholism for years and had anger, resentments and shame for not killing my stepfather. Also for not saving us sooner. The women he was with left him when he gained custody of us, and he almost died from that. He got pneumonia and we had to help him through it. I was picked on for a few years at first because we were clearly very poor and kids are dicks. I eventually started fighting back, and then I started to get into a lot of fights. It was a way to have control, and in my traumatized adolescent mind, if people were afraid of me, then I'd never get hurt again. My addiction was a result of having no coping skills and not wanting to feel the disgust I had for myself and shame. I wound up in jail in 2011, and that started my recovery journey. I had no contact with my dad for almost 10 years, and then I made amends with him in 2018, and he was sober and we became closer in that time than we'd ever been. I cherish that time with him. He sadly died very unexpectedly after hitting his head. That's a heartbreaking story. I'm happy that you are recovering and are actively trying to lead a good life. It's inspiring. Good luck.